him up. The woman got in the boat, and somebody threw the baby to him wrapped in a blanket. He caught the baby and gave it to Mrs. Caldwell, and then the guy just stepped into the boat. So there's like 4 other versions in between.
Right.
And Albert changed his version slightly each time he told it, so who knows exactly.
But obviously, just getting in the lifeboat isn't, certain that you're going to make it. And I know that Sylvia would write an account of being on the subsequent boat that took them to safety. Is that correct?
Yes, she did. She wrote a little booklet about her views of being on the Carpathia and how the other women behaved and how they were stalwart and brave and all. And some described in not a whole lot of detail exactly how they were treated and what they were given as far as clothing or blankets. She didn't really get into that as much as she did just wanting to let the world know how brave the women were who had just lost their husbands and everything else.
Of course, intact families were very rare as far as being saved as well. And they would go on to have another child, but that was their whole family at that point in time.
Exactly. Yep. There were many boats filled with women and children, which is what they decided they were going to do. And the husbands went down with the ship. And yes, there were few families of father, mother, and child who survived together.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob. Be next. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. We're speaking with Carolyn Elwes. She is the university archivist. We are sitting in what she calls the den. It is very den-like, as a matter of fact, and makes me feel makes me feel very learned. I can look around and learn without much effort here. But when the movie came out in 1997, it's basically it's the third movie, and the previous two movies are quite good. The one with Barbara Stanwyck and Clifton Webb, and then A Night to Remember in 1957, I believe, from the 1955 book. Those are excellent movies. They're not as don't have as gigantic a love story and all that type of thing, but all three, in a certain way, serve the purpose. When that came out, you had a smaller group of artifacts and such, and maybe were a little taken aback that people would want to come and see what you had, which you have much more now in the exhibit.
Well, it's a short little story, really, but when the movie came out, I became interested and wanted to share with our alumni in our community the story of Albert and Sylvia. So I wrote a little article about them, not having all the detail we have now, but regardless, it was sent to our PR office, and they sent it out to all their press and print connections. And all of a sudden, I was getting phone calls like crazy, from TV stations, radio programs, newspapers, just people who were interested in the ship. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like, if I could use the analogy, a wave of interest, and everybody wanted to come see these few little things that we had, which were related to the Titanic. No artifacts, of course, but it was a lot of fun. So I just started continuing to research and looking for, to flesh the story out a little better. But I can't stress enough how surprised and shocked I was that people were so excited to know that Park, which was Park College then, had a connection to the Titanic, which, as far as I know, was the only concrete Kansas City connection, besides the story of a family who were on their way here to open a business. I'm not sure that they ever lived here. Only the mother and daughter survived. So, but ours was considered to be more concrete and had so many aspects to it that it caught everybody's attention.
At the time, 1912, when the Titanic went down, where you were showing me all kinds of books and what you might call sort of tabloid books that were out at the time. So a lot of people were monetizing what happened with the Titanic. There's some song lyrics out there. My sweetheart went down with the Titanic or whatever.
I could sing it for you.
You can go right ahead if you like.
I think you want to hear it.
But did Albert in any way gain any kind of fame or make speeches? You mentioned that he changed the story, but did he in any way become a famous, or the family become famous survivors of the Titanic in any way?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because he did go on a Chautauqua circuit, and a Chautauqua circuit was run by an organization that set up literary and cultural speeches and events and such around the country. And so he did take it around the country, but I can't really say whether it made him well known, but they wanted to hear his story enough that he did do that. Sylvia never really made an effort to keep talking about it, but she had her own story. Mm-hmm. Albert and Sylvia went on to live very interesting lives after the Titanic.
What were their lives like?
Well, Albert started as a teacher and quickly decided that wasn't going to pay for everything they needed, and they had another son too at some point, and so they moved to Bloomington, Illinois, and he got a job with an insurance company. I forget the name of it offhand, but so they settled there, and until 1930, which for some reason we don't really know, they divorced. Sylvia had been a housewife and mother, but at that point she also got a job, but with State Farm Insurance. And Albert, both of them remarried. Albert married a lady and continued to work in the insurance business until he retired. Sylvia, this is an interesting story. She worked as secretary to J.G. Maherl was his name, who was the founder and first president of State Farm Insurance Company. And 2 years after his wife died, he ended up marrying Sylvia. Oh. So she became a real society matron type, which I believe she always wished to be.
Right.
And wouldn't have achieved that with Albert. But at any rate, that may have caused a bit of a scandal in the insurance company, but because the president was involved, it didn't make a big stink out of it. So, but anyway, they led very peaceful lives, and as I said, both of their sons grew up and had careers of their own, but Albert and Sylvia more or less led the types of lives that they weren't exactly taught how to live here at Park College, but was enhanced by the things they learned here, particularly music was very important, so both of them performed.
Interesting. Sylvia would be interviewed for the book, 1955, Walter Lord's book, A Night to Remember, and so she's a part of that, and obviously would be part of what the film would become, A Night to Remember. You said she became a society. It almost seems like she might have had the personality where she would have relished talking about the Titanic story, but I guess maybe not.
When I was doing a lot of research for the book and also working with the author of a great book on the Titanic, we contacted some relatives or descendants that were still alive, and one woman had been a niece or great niece of Sylvia, and she said she just didn't want to talk about it.
Interesting, almost like a wartime experience, maybe something like that, and especially its memories of her other husband. So that would probably be a part of it. That book was released in 2012, A Rare Titanic Family, the Caldwell Story of Survival, written by Albert's great niece, Julie Hedgepeth Williams, and you obviously assisted greatly in that book, which I think you feel is really a quality piece of work.
It is an excellent book, and Julie was very thorough, and in her research and mine, we were contacted or located some of these descendants, and one of them was Charles Caldwell, who was the son of Alden, the baby who survived with them. And he was just terrific and provided us with all kinds of information that we hadn't heard before. And then another one was the niece of Sylvia, who is the one who said she didn't want to talk about it. But Julie, the author, Julie Williams, was a great niece by marriage of Albert's, and she remembers him from when she was a little girl, and he would sit there and he would tell stories about the Titanic, and that's how she became really interested in it as a child. And so Albert shared his story, not publicly. After a while, I think he got tired of talking about it, and perhaps was asked some very critical questions, like, how come you survived and all those other brave husbands went down with the ship willingly,
Right.
But Alden Caldwell, their son, Albert and Sylvia's son Alden, the baby on the ship, was also pestered about what he knew that his parents had said about the Titanic, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. He did not want to talk about it. But he did his answer to the question